What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. So yesterday I gave you guys my top 10 favorite movies of 2019. The best of the best, in my opinion. Today, we're doing the opposite. I'm giving you guys my top 10 worst movies of the year. And I understand, I know some YouTubers refrain from doing these videos, and that's absolutely fine. But I've seen 230 movies this year, and I have 10 movies that stand out to me as just maybe movies that didn't hit me right, maybe films that just didn't execute properly. There are many reasons why I come out of a movie completely disappointed or just offended, honestly. Now, there are so many reasons why you can walk out of a movie very disappointed, upset, whatever that feeling is. And no offense to the filmmakers and the people involved in these movies. You made a movie. That's awesome. It didn't hit me right. So just because these are my least favorites doesn't mean it has to be your least favorites, but I encourage you to comment your thoughts down below. What are your least favorite movies of the year? If you guys tuned into my video yesterday, you know there's a competition going on. The winner of that competition will be revealed in my top 10 favorite movies of the decade video. If you guys enjoy these kinds of lists, these end of the year, end of the decade lists, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. We'll definitely do more. But before we get into today's top 10, bottom 10, I'm going to give you guys some dishonorable mentions, aka movies that they came close, but they did not quite get there. So some movies that didn't make this list: Replicas, Wounds, Wonder Park, Ugly Dolls, and Black Christmas. These are films that got close, movies I didn't like, clearly. All right, let's get into number 10. And coming in at number 10 is a film that, probably offended me a bit more than others because I'm a massive comic book movie fan. I love when they execute properly, or at least keep me entertained. And I can understand how some found entertainment from the new Hellboy movie, because I love David Harbour, and he was by far and away the absolute best part of this film. He was awesome. He embodied and embraced this character. Unfortunately, they just didn't write a good movie. The script is awful, the screenplay is bad, the movie is messy, the editing is horrible, the CGI does not hold up, and one of the worst villains in recent memory in a superhero movie. There is nothing that stands out about Hellboy as coherent. And it's such a shame because it's like, oh, we're going to take Hellboy in more of a horror direction, even though that's not what they ended up delivering in the film. And I like the other Hellboy movies, and I'm a fan of Neil Marshall, and I love David Harbour. Why didn't this work? Man, it was just such a miserable experience in the theater. A bad comic book movie, to me, is one of the absolute worst things you can do just because I love those films so much. So Hellboy cracks my top 10. Coming in at number 9 is a movie I've already talked about on this channel. I gave you guys my worst Netflix movies of the year a couple of days ago. Secret Obsession was on that list. This is it's basically a Lifetime/Hallmark movie starring Brenda Song, where she is recovering from her injuries after an attack with her husband, who is keeping her locked in this room. But is he actually her husband? Ooh, this is some of the most expositional, on-the-nose dialogue I've seen the entire year. For some reason, no one around this creepy guy could figure out that he was the one doing this. Not to spoil the entire movie for you, but one, it's in the summary, and two, come on, man. Secret Obsession is one of those films that it doesn't do a lot right. I'll be honest with you. It tried, and at times I laughed because it's unintentionally funny, but that's about it. Secret Obsession, nope. Next up is the John Cena film that for some reason I decided to watch. I didn't review it on this channel because I watched it a bit later. I did review it on Patreon, but let's just say this. I don't know why this movie is coming out in 2019. And I could say the same thing about Hellboy. Hellboy feels like a comic book movie that belongs in the early 2000s, but not a good one. This feels like one of those family films in the same vein of a Shaggy Dog or something like that, right? With the quirky, the over-the-top humor, the characters that don't make any sense. They're not based in any kind of reality. It is a movie that, if you turn your brain off, you can have a bit of fun with. But I was just so like, why is John Cena taking his shirt off in a kid's movie? Why are these adults so oblivious to everything happening around them? Why did the movie end a scene where they're dabbing and doing the Fortnite dances and one of the most cringeworthy things I've ever seen? Why did John Cena jump out of a helicopter without putting his parachute on first, and then he puts it on in midair and lands on the ground? A lot of questions while watching this movie. And obviously that's not what it's about, but Playing with Fire is one of those films I watched. I'm just like, why does this exist? I like John Cena. I like Keegan-Michael Key. I like everyone involved. So why is this film being what it's being. Now, I'm inevitably going to get questions. Austin, where's the Men in Black Internationals? Where's the X-Men Dark Phoenixes? You know, I didn't really like those movies, but when you watch 200 and something movies in a year, you find movies that are just not good. And then you find films that are at the bottom of the barrel and ones that you wish you didn't have this internal obligation of reviewing every single movie. And a lot of the movies I'm going to talk about, you guys have probably never heard of, but that is probably why they're the worst movies of the year. That's why there's not a lot of big budgeted blockbusters on this list, because a lot of people tell me all the time, well, these are the worst movies of the year. It's like, well, you didn't watch Sextuplets on Netflix. Sextuplets is a film that probably no one has heard of. Well, I know a few people that have watched it. Even in my review, I had people defending this movie saying, Austin, Sextuplets is funny, and if you laugh, that's fine. Comedy is subjective. It's one of the few things I can look at and say, if I thought this was not funny at all and you thought it was funny, I understand because of the subjectivity, and I like Marlon Wayans. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Marlon Wayans playing all of these different characters, these sextuplets, and each character being just a spoof of what they intended on each character being. And I know it's supposed to be kind of a spoof movie, but those films are supposed to be funny. And none of these characters are funny, all played by Marlon Wayans. None of the interactions are funny. The first sibling that we encounter, the overweight version of Marlon Wayans, who is a male, I don't remember the name, one of the most annoying characters I have seen all year, and it's another Netflix road trip movie that falls completely flat. Sextuplets, for me, is one of the worst things you can do. A comedy that is not funny, and that is so unfortunate. You know what is funny? Playmobil, just not in the right way. Playmobil, gosh, guys, I went and watched this movie a tad bit early, and I wasn't excited about it, but I'm like, maybe it's not as bad as all the reviews are saying it is. Maybe it is more like the Lego Movie, and it is kind of like the Lego Movie, but not in a nice way that harkens to those films, more in a way that feels like it's ripping off the Lego Movie. And that's not good. Playmobil does absolutely nothing right. It takes Anya Taylor-Joy, it gives us 5 to 6 minutes of her in live-action form, ripping off the Lego Movie, and then it puts us in this world where you just don't care about the characters. You don't care about the journey or adventure. It feels like every kid's animated film wrapped up into one, all of them over the last 25 years in one movie. It feels so incohesive, shoehorned. The characters, like I said, are not funny. Daniel Radcliffe is trying. I think some of these voice actors are trying, but most of them are just collecting a paycheck, and I hate to say it. The studio didn't know what to do with this film. All tickets were $5 because they knew it would fall on its face. It's also one of the lowest grossing movies of the last 10 years, so that's a thing. Doom Annihilation is, here's what it is. It's a movie that the studio literally made just because they had to keep the rights. And I've read that in multiple articles. It's not been confirmed, but that's what it feels like. You probably didn't even know this movie came out. Remember Doom with The Rock? This is not that. This makes that look like The Godfather. Okay, Doom Annihilation is atrocious on every single level. The dialogue, it feels like a video game just in the worst way. And I would honestly say the CGI in the games is better than the CGI in the movie. I don't remember what this plot was. You have this literal mad scientist, over-the-top characters. Every one-liner you've ever heard in an 80s action movie is thrown out in this film. And the best part, they set up a sequel. They don't even get to what we thought the climax would be. They cut the movie off. It goes to black, thinking we're coming back for a sequel. We're not. Now, here's a movie everybody's heard about. It's Cats. Meow. I don't even know where to start with this. I didn't expect it to be this bad. Listen, I didn't like the trailer. I'm on record saying I thought the trailer was not very good. The CGI in that trailer was horrible. And while it did get better in the movie, it's still so bad to the point to where it's off-putting in the film. Now, I know they went back and they fixed the CGI and they re-released the movie in theaters. How's that working out for you? I just don't get it, guys. But it wasn't even the creepy, terrifying, I had multiple nightmares look of the cats. It's the story and the script and the plot and the fact that people are defending this film. And I get it. You love the musical. That's fine. Sometimes things are not translated from stage to screen. That's happened many times before. But this movie is so bad, so incohesive, so to the point where you just didn't care about the characters. I'm starting to question Tom Hooper winning any awards prior to this. I'm just like, even though I like King's Speech, I think that's a pretty good movie, but it's like, I shouldn't have won Best Picture, but I think it's a good movie. What'd you do? What'd you do? It's very rare a movie with this budget is as bad as a straight-to-VOD film like the one that I just talked about in Doom Annihilation. But for me, Cats fell flat on every single level. And I know there are going to be defenders that get upset. That's fine. If you love the movie, there were two old ladies a couple rows down from me. They were clapping and screaming and hoo-ha, and I'm like, there you go. I'm glad you're enjoying it, but I'm not. Let's move on. This is The Fanatic, where John Travolta plays a character called Moose. The movie was supposed to be called Moose. It should have been called Moose. The first line in this movie is, "Can't talk too long, gotta poo." This film was directed by Fred Durst, a.k.a. the lead singer of Limp Bizkit. In the movie, they play a Limp Bizkit song and say, "Oh, it's a really good song. I like that song," and they're nodding their heads in the car. There are so many things about this movie that had me laughing so hard upon further pondering. There are things about this movie that literally make me want to go watch it again. I almost turned this on last night just to confirm its spot on my list, and I tried to get my wife to watch it, and she's just like, nope, we started it. We got 5 minutes in, she said, can't do it. And I'm like, come on, it's fine, she just can't do it. This is, wow, Gotti was bad, man. But this isn't Gotti, right? Gotti was just boring. This movie isn't boring. This movie's upbeat, it's fun, it's horribly paced. Everything about it's horrible. But in that vein, it's kind of fun to watch. But then you start to think about John Travolta and where his career is right now and the fact that, you know, he was trying in this movie. And I got to give it to the guy. He commits, okay? But this film was just so atrociously bad. And it would be number one on most people's lists, but The Fanatic is a movie that I watch and I kind of get some entertainment out of. Oh my goodness. If you guys haven't seen this, it's on Amazon Prime. Seek it out. Get an Amazon Prime membership just for this film. It will be worth every penny. No, it won't. I'm not going to talk too long about this. This was my number one least favorite Netflix movie of the year. And if we're going just based on, you know, editing, technical aspects, things that make a movie, this is the worst movie of the year. It didn't offend me, you know, as hard as my number one did, but it's the worst technical movie of the year. It's honestly one of the worst made movies I think I've ever seen. There were cast members coming out and just denying the fact that they were in the movie. They didn't know how to release it, when to release it, why to release it. This is called Drive. It is on Netflix. It's based out of the country of India, and I've seen a lot of shows from India this year that have been fantastic, but this film is an abomination. I played this clip in my Netflix video. I'm going to play it again. Here you go.
Actually, मैं Formula 1 का टेस्ट ड्राइवर हूँ।
So you take those clips from that trailer and just the fast-paced style of what's going on, the jumbled nature and the music and the fact that you have the CGI cars, like the least you could have done with this film that is ripping off Fast and Furious. I mean every element down to character representations of how they play within the team. At least get real cars. Why do you need to CGI the cars? I feel like it's more expensive. Sure, you have to look for stunt people if you get real cars, but the cars are CGI, and it looks so bad. Ugh. I mentioned the transitions in my other video, but they use every fade, wipe, clockwise, counterclockwise. We're going to pull out this screen, and we're going to bring in another one. It's just like, oh man, this movie, I mean, I made things on iMovie when I was 6 that were better than this. Truly. Maybe not. Probably not. But close. But nothing is as offensively bad as The Haunting of Sharon Tate. I believe this one's also free on Amazon Prime. Good. I mean, I like Hilary Duff because I like Lizzie McGuire, but this makes not just her, everyone in this movie look awful, like untouchable. And I don't know if it's the screenplay, the script, the dialogue in general, the direction from Daniel Farrens, who wrote and directed this movie, who apparently likes taking on true stories and then changing them up, swerving them in the horror direction, which he has done before and he is doing again. There's another movie he has that's coming out. I can't wait to see it. But in a year where we get a movie like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, top 20 movies of the year for me, Quentin Tarantino, just a brilliant film based around, not necessarily around Sharon Tate, but she's a pretty integral part to that film. It's almost like clockwork that it all comes back to The Haunting of Sharon Tate in the same year with similar characters telling this true story, just in a different way, right? They take Sharon Tate and place her in a horror film, and basically, I mean, what it felt like to me, they're basically making fun of the fact that she died in real life. That's what it feels like. That's the way it's portrayed on screen in The Haunting of Sharon Tate. And she is literally in this movie seeing her death over and over again in these visceral visions, and it's playing out in different ways. I'm just like, what's the point to this? There are unnecessary jump scares that are not scary at all, and that's my least favorite thing about bad horror movies. When you try to give us jump scares that aren't scary, but you do it over and over and over again. Sure, like La Llorona came out this year, the Annabelle movie came out this year, Pet Sematary, all of those movies, they didn't necessarily hit their mark for me, but nothing to the level, to the degree of The Haunting of Sharon Tate. And then you take the fact that they are basically, it feels bad. It feels like this director just didn't like Sharon Tate, and I don't even want to go there, but that's how bad this movie is, guys. The editing is awful. The pacing is so bad. So many expositional lines of dialogue that bothered me so much, and The Haunting of Sharon Tate is just a movie that I think about, and I get frustrated, flustered, honestly, more than any other movie this year, and that's why it's number one on my list. So if you guys want to hear me expand on my thoughts, I did a 2-hour podcast on Patreon with a friend where we talked about our least favorite movies of the year, and I talked in depth for 2 hours about all of these films. You guys can check that out. It is public, so you don't have to be on a tier or pay for anything. I just wanted to put it out there so everyone could hear it, and I'm going to do the same for my best list. I will put both of those on my community page so you guys can find them. But thank you so much for tuning in to this video, for checking it out, man. These are my least favorite movies of the year. I want to know, what are your least favorite films of the year? And I'm not encouraging anyone to go out and tweet at the director and say, oh, you did this, you did that, because just because it didn't hit me doesn't mean it hit you in a bad way. Maybe you like the film. I definitely need a discussion in the comments down below. If you guys like these lists, like I said, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. We will definitely do more. My top 10 of the decade is coming very soon. But actually, first, I think I'm going to do my favorite Netflix series of the year. Be on the lookout for that video, a review for Little Women, a review for Spies in Disguise. I'll see you soon.